Some of the greatest movies ever made are ones whose various strengths all come together to form a cohesive, captivating whole. The Shining, The Social Network, and Jaws are all terrific examples of movies that are composed of powerful, separate sections that function in harmony to create a wonderful piece of art. That is unquestionably the case with God of War. Its musical score enhances story moments, which flows seamlessly into fantastic action gameplay, which facilitates exploration and puzzles, and which rewards you with a deeper comprehension of its characters and its vast and beautiful world. God of War is a brilliantly orchestrated collection of extraordinary interlocking elements, deliberate in its design and foreshadowing, which pays off in unexpected ways in both the gameplay and the story. God of War's fish out of water story, which is influenced by Norse mythology, is a never-ending swirl of emotions and features a well-known but deliberately reinvented character. Kratos' bond with his young son Atreus, which is at the center of the entire scene, is captured in a single uninterrupted camera shot that just never pulls away or shifts the attention away from it. But the plot also features an unforgettable supporting cast, a stunning landscape that is endlessly delightful to explore, and tremendously satisfying fighting. God of War's straightforward plot makes it work right away. At best, acquaintances at first. Kratos and Atreus embark on their journey having recently experienced the death of Kratos' wife, with whom Atreus developed a stronger bond than his father. To fulfill her last wishes, the two set out for the highest point in all the realms. The visual nature of the setup is similar to Journey. I could see the peak in the distance and knew I would arrive there eventually. However, as similar stories have shown me, the path is never simple or straightforward. Starting with the first significant encounter in the opening hours, a number of challenges, both natural and created by God, extend the adventure to approximately 25 hours worth of terrifying dangers. If you've played any of the 7 games that have come before this one, 8 if you count the 2 PSP games and the mobile game, you already know that Kratos had a long life in ancient Greece filled with triumph, defeat, and plenty of god-killing. The character we meet here has begun a new chapter, having found love, a family, and a long bushy beard in this Norse mythology universe, even if his past surely influences who he is today. But because he is still unfamiliar with the area, he must rely on the sun, with whom he has little in common, to translate the local dialects and provide him with direction when an axe swing or a boot imprint on an undead enemy is ineffective. One of God of War's most captivating aspects is the development of that relationship throughout the narrative. The two people in this situation both grieve for the same woman, but in very different ways. One is young and still innocent, while the other is old and covered in blood. Despite his initial coldness, Kratos loves his son. He mostly refers to him as boy, rarely making eye contact with him, and seems dissatisfied with his lack of fighting prowess and stomach. Of course, he will unreservedly beat the life out of anyone who threatens his son. It seems that's the only way he knows how to show affection. It's heartbreaking to see Kratos struggle with how to interact with a young boy who he simultaneously hopes to become a survivor and fears may end up like him. The single camera shot style used in God of War, which until you die never cuts from the title screen to the closing credits, is a subtle effect that I initially didn't notice. It did, however, serve to showcase the power of some of the larger-scale monsters as I navigated and battled my way through the narrative. I was able to instantaneously express the urgency of facing an opponent 10 times his size because I never left Kratos' side. And have no fear, God of War still offers the franchise's distinctive diversity of breathtaking settings, and the camera makes them stand out in the narrative's quieter moments. The camera never leaves Kratos' mental condition throughout some of the game's most dramatic and tragic scenes. You're compelled to sit by his side throughout it all, sometimes in quiet, other times in agony as a melancholy chorus echoes around him, and other times in relief. These feelings are even more genuine and powerful because of the intimacy. Kratos has been so relatable as a result that I have frequently called Atreus my son since the film's beginning. The significance of Atreus cannot be overstated. He contributes to the plot and is useful in combat. That's a major relief because traditionally, it's been a hit or miss when games require you to stick with the sidekick for the entire experience. Some, like The Last of Us, cleverly exploit that connection by adding gameplay twists toward the end of the narrative. Others turn those sidekicks into a constant bother, an extra life bar controlled by a occasionally suicidal AI to worry about constantly while engaged in combat. Atreus resembles the former more, but what makes this basic relationship so clever is how God of War perfectly replicates it onto gameplay right away. Despite their separation, Atreus is still Kratos' son, and as such, he follows your instructions and acts as a virtually invulnerable extension of your fighting skills. Atreus is armed with a bow and a bottomless quiver of arrows, and he will automatically plink away at enemies or jump on them to stun them. When directed by tapping the square button, he will take a more powerful shot at whatever you're looking at, and you'll develop a rhythm as you time your taps to match his rate of recharge and use his attacks effectively. He can also develop his skill tree to counter Kratos' more potent strikes. The weight of the changes in their relationship are deftly woven into your battles in God of War, which operates under the premise that Atreus is always at your disposal. The initially constrained world of God of War begins to open up after a few hours, and the game's numerous rewards and collectibles for solving optional puzzles and battles encourage exploration. The purple color of their health bar, which clearly indicates a much more difficult opponent, will occasionally cross your path. These opponents can frequently take you out in 1 or 2 hits. Occasional encounters with these circumstances made me feel as though I was trespassing on someone else's turf, so I needed to be ready. God of War never disappointed me when I felt like a challenge. Although there is a lot of freedom, the map never truly becomes open world, in the sense that games like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Horizon Zero Dawn do. Rather, it's an interrelated series of diverse locations, many of which are gated behind specific story moments and collectible milestones until the very end. The quest chain in God of War, which occasionally veers toward the cliché of Kratos coming up with a plan he believed would work, only to find it to be missing one crucial piece, shepherds you through certain places. However, the way that its universe develops through clever blending with that narrative occasionally turned me into a cliché too. I anticipated Kratos' voyage to be quite simple and limited to the region I was first shown. But then you can come across a memento that takes Kratos' adventure well beyond what you had anticipated. I would literally jump out of my chair in those situations, where I would discover that I had traveled further than I had intended to, and in a world that was startlingly large. There are several significant, rewarding areas that you can completely miss if you don't take advantage of Atreus' numerous reminders that you can explore recently discovered terrain. So some of that progress necessitates deviating from the main path. Norse characters and locations are cleverly used in both optional and crucial areas, and some are even charged and reshaped in ways that make returning worthwhile and exciting. However, aside from the occasional frame rate dip when moving the camera over intricate landscapes, or around in the middle of a crowded battle, or while in the Favor Resolution Pro mode, which continues to maintain the higher resolution at the cost of occasionally dropping frames, the world and also its inhabitants generally ran smoothly for me. During my time with it, the Favor Performance feature clearly increased the frame rates, but it didn't reach 60 FPS. On either the normal PS4 or the PS4 Pro though, the sporadic difficulties I encountered during my playthrough didn't significantly impede my progress or interrupt my enjoyment of the game.